Space. The final frontier. It's been called many things, this endless amalgamation of stars, cosmic dust, planets, asteroids, what have you. But something really interesting happened to me recently regarding space. So I drew a picture of a Fakemon that I'd been working on. It was a ghost water type. It was actually this Pokemon right here. And I posted this to Reddit, and people really seemed to enjoy it. But the big comment that I seem to be getting most often was how much that it reminded them of the astrological symbol Aquarius. And I thought, that is really interesting. That is very cool that people are seeing that in this design. And so I began to think and began to formulate the ideas for this video. What if we turned other astrological symbols into Fakemon? What if we did all of them? And as I was thinking about that, one really stuck out to me. And that's going to be the one that we're going to focus on today. I'm really excited, so I'm just going to go ahead and hop right into it. Hello everyone, it's me, the Sterninator. Today we're going to be taking a look at some astrological-based Pokemon, specifically Libra. So if you are a Libra, let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you what your experience in being a Libra is like, what this Pokemon, I guess, speaks to you in regards to that. But yeah, just going into this design here, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I really began with the idea of Libra, of balance. I wanted this to incorporate balance in some way. And while I knew we would eventually work our way up to the scales that make Libra such a dynamic symbol, I didn't want to start there. I wanted to start with something a little bit simpler. So I thought of this idea of this toppling type of Pokemon, something that felt like it could collapse at any moment. I actually worked on a design with the same motifs for a collaborative region for a couple different creators that ended up falling through. And it was super disappointing because I really liked the ideas behind that Pokemon. You can find it on the channel still. I don't remember its name. I think it's Sedimite. But this Pokemon really allowed me to bring those ideas back in a more useful and influential way. So very, very pumped about that. I also wanted to incorporate a few other concepts into this idea. Things like celestial bodies. I wanted to make this feel like it was a moon or something in orbit. And so we have a lot of these round shapes, a lot of these very swirly type of concepts. It itself is this round stone-like ball sitting on a plate, being orbited by these other pieces. Very, very, very much motion captured in this design. And I think you'll see it a lot more as we get into the colors, how it does feel very planetary. It does feel very motion-esque. As much as it is kind of a still image, at least at this point, it feels like there's some motion there. And that's something that I really wanted to capture. I wanted it to feel like it was teetering, like it was something that could, I don't know, either balance itself out or fall apart. And I wanted to include that plate type shape there because it made me, it evoked the concept of these scales, or at least a part of the scale, without being a balance itself, if that makes sense. I don't know. But I feel like it really worked out. It's one of the scales that makes up the scale as a whole. That was the idea. That was the concept. I don't know, something about this design really spoke to me. I really like the idea of a moon-shaped Pokemon outside of Lunatone. So I was really glad to be able to bring this guy to life. Topple, the teetering Pokemon. This psychic-type Pokemon appears to always be on the verge of collapse. However, its strong inner core allows it to move its multiple parts to adjust and balance at a rapid pace. Not much is known of this Pokemon, with some claiming that it originated in space amidst a far-off star. But regardless of its origin, Topple seems to enjoy the company of trainers and other Pokemon alike. Next up we have Topple's evolution. I spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out the intricacies of how I wanted to do this. I knew that at the base I wanted a scale type Pokemon. I keep saying scale, and I keep assuming that people are going to misinterpret that, meaning scaly like an alligator or like a fish. And just know that when I say scale, I mean balancing scales. I knew that I wanted to go with that design, but how to get there became this weird dance of what made sense, what looked cool, and what was unique. And I feel like I really hit it. I moved a lot of those swirls that we see throughout Topple's design and evolved them some. Brought them in to create this more human-looking shape that still felt mystic. It still felt a little spacey and cosmic, and I really dug it. I think that it also hits a lot of that Greco-Roman inspired design that we saw in the Aquarius type Pokemon. So it has this connective tissue between both without looking like just a clone of another. I really drew upon the inspiration of Pokemon like the Ultra Beasts. The Ultra Beasts and how they have this defining factor to them, but that they can all still look unique. And while I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do to make these scales, I drew on some of my favorite Pokemon outside of the Ultra Beasts. I thought of Pokemon like Metagross, who was my absolute favorite, and probably still is to this day, and really helped me get through Pokemon Emerald towards the end there. So I thought, okay, Metagross has this whole concept of having these multiple arms, each with their own brain. What if I was able to do the same thing? And I gave this Pokemon 3 arms, but one of the arms is being used more so as a balance beam, almost as a lot of Pokemon and a lot of real-life animals do with their tails. So like a cheetah uses its tail almost as a rudder in the air to help it change direction. And I thought that'd be really cool to do something like that with this 3rd arm. So you can see kind of the bottom half is an arm similar to the other 2. And using not the arms of the scale as the actual arms, but using the balancing mechanisms as the arms, I thought was a ton of fun. It gives the Pokemon a unique silhouette and gives it this motion while being motionless. Again, I don't know if that makes sense, but when I was designing this, it really felt like, okay, this is working, this is flowing the way that I want. And yeah, I think if I sat with this design long enough, I would just keep adding to it because I enjoy it so much. I think, oh, this would be cool and that would be cool. But eventually I had to tell myself, okay, this feels like enough. This feels like where we want to be. And I'm really, really happy with it. I find that the more that I record myself and the more that I do these design type challenges for myself, the more I find that I really enjoy what comes out of them. And I was really happy that I was able to bring in that gold and that stone type texture in this way, because I feel like that was really the calling card of this Fakemon. And I was really happy that it was able to stick true all the way across. Bbra, the balance Pokemon. Difficult to knock off balance, this psychic rock-type Pokemon stands firm against any attack. Even fainted Bbra will right their position into an upright stance. It is said that in ancient times this Pokemon was used to weigh gold, as its perceptive skills go unmatched in the way of weight and worth. And this would normally be the end of this line. It's astrology Pokemon, as I've done in the past with the Aquarius type design, end on their 2nd form. However, something began to arise, something began to change in this Pokemon. As you can tell by its Pokedex entries, it is both foreign and ancient, and so I had to tackle that as well. On starry nights, when the sky is clear, this Pokemon goes through a change. It begins to manifest a new form, something powerful, something cosmic, something that feels like it's drawing upon the history of this Pokemon beyond our own Earth. It begins to change into an Awoken form. Now with these astrology-based Pokemon, I wanted to give them a form that showed power, that showed that they're not something that we fully understand. We may give them the name Pokemon, but in reality they are something far more ancient and far more horrifying. I wanted to draw on concepts of the biblically accurate angels and the idea of bringing in shapes that almost mimic or draw inspiration from the constellation themselves. we go from being a design that's meant to look like it could be your friend while also incorporating elements of the initial inspiration to being almost fully the inspiration itself. We go from being a friendly fighter type character, a little friend that walks along you, to this is the inspiration for the constellation. This is the scale itself. The idea of what if these constellations were not named for the earthly things that we know them as, the scale, the balance weights, that type of thing, but instead were named for these Pokemon. And so I had to bring in the idea of this powerful entity while also grabbing onto what Libra is. So I wanted to go with the Awoken form. You can see that I've changed a lot of the line work here from black to blue, and that was intentional. That was an intent to kind of move away from this is not Gigantamax. We'll have red outline. This design, this change is going to use blue. It's going to feel a little bit more cosmic. It's going to use more cool colors. I don't know yet if I'm going to keep using this specific shade of blue or if as I do the rest, we'll move across this cool palette. But it's something that I was really happy with, something I was really wanting to make feel different. And I feel like I kind of got where I wanted to be with that. I thought about its motion being a bit more erratic as it swings around these wrecking balls to just damage things around it, always staying upright, always staying where it is, despite these massive weights being hauled around. It will always maintain itself and it will always return to form. So let me know what you think. Do you like these astrological Pokemon? What is one that you were excited to see? Maybe it's your astrological sign. I myself am an Aries, and I have been toying with that idea for a while. I do have a really cool design coming up here for Pisces. That was one that as I was working on Libra, I began to think, okay, what's next? And I thought, oh, I've got some really fun ideas for Pisces. So that's probably going to be the next one coming up. I've also got some collaborations that I'm going to be working on soon. I'll give more detail about that in my Twitter. If you want to see the posts for these, you can check them out on Instagram. They'll be posted tomorrow, if not Friday. So I usually wait a day or two to post from YouTube to Instagram. However, the images for these, as well as kind of this type of video, the long form video, have been available on my Patreon already for a whole day. So Patreon gets those early. About 3-4 days later, Instagram will get those. You can find more information about all of this on Twitter. I'm trying really hard to stick to all of my social medias, but that's it. That's all I got for you. Again, we're going to be doing this whole line. Keep track. Be excited for it. I know I am. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what symbol you are most excited for, and who knows, maybe it'll be right after Pisces. I have no plans beyond that. So I will see you in the next one.